All right, welcome back. I'm the Zim, and this is the Zim video, and this is the Art Professors podcast, where we're documenting the journey, this professor's journey of being an art professor, and others as we come across them. A little recap about what it is that where my journey so far and away. Right now, I'm currently just finished my first semester at Northwest Missouri State University. I have one more semester to go, and then I'll be hopefully at a new university next year. I'm applying to visiting faculty positions, so we'll see where that goes. Last year, I taught at San Diego State University, and the year before that, I was in my MFA process at the San Diego State University, and I got my undergrad at the University of Washington in fiber arts, and my graduate degree basically in graphic design, I guess you could say. A little looser, but yeah, I studied around the graphic design department. But I did say last week that I was probably not going to record a solo cast until next year again because we're coming up on the first of the year. I didn't think there would be much to talk about, but a few things happened this week. Three things I want to talk about. So my new art I just made, because I am a practicing artist, and that's actually what I want to do more of than necessarily be an art professor. So it's like, and we'll talk more in depth about that. I also got some kind of feedback from my students, which I haven't looked at yet. So we'll talk about that. But I have some other feedback, some other student relations issues that came up that I want to talk about. And then also, one last thing was now that I'm in this position of, experience, I guess you could say, and having students, I had my first student ask for a letter of recommendation for graduate school that I wrote for them. And I'll tell you about that experience. So those are the three things that I want to talk about. A reminder as well, next summer 2024, I'll be in Nashville, Tennessee at Tennessee State University, May 13th through the 30th. I'm drawing 72 drawings of Justin Jones and 69 drawings of Justin Pearson. If you're familiar with my 116 drawings of Ketanji Brown Jackson, it's a very similar kind of exhibition as that. We'll be in the gallery, so you can come visit. I'll be there probably about 15 days in a row, about, I don't know, probably not 8 hours a day, but enough to do like 10 drawings a day. Half hour each drawing. What's that? So 5 hours, 6 hours, something like that probably is the range that I'll be doing. And then it'll also be live streamed on my YouTube channel. So if you're listening to this somewhere other than YouTube, then please find my YouTube channel, The Zim Video, and subscribe and support it. And then also check out the exhibition when I'm live and support that. So looking forward to that. That's like number one thing on my list. Oh, there's a couple other side notes as well. Happy holidays. However you like to celebrate, I hope you enjoy it. However it works for you. I'm on my break right now, which I'll talk a little bit more about that as well. Let's put that at the end. Break plans. Yeah. Okay. Sounds good. And then, I think that covers about it. Anyways, I don't know what else to say. I think there's more I wanted to say right there, but I forgot. So let's get into this art. I just made some art this week, which I'm really excited about. This I want to break it down, do a little kind of behind the scenes artist talk about this piece of artwork. Those of you that are watching the video can see it behind me on my wall still. I haven't taken it off. The blue that's on there is tape holding it on, so that'll be taken off. But what it is a 62 inches tall, 42 inches wide, ink on paper with vinyl cuts as well. And so, as you probably know, I make a lot of portraits. I do a lot around politically inspired, motivated kind of topics and personalities. And, I'm a progressive. I want to see our kind of society move into a more progressive stance on how we treat each other, more, taking care of each other, universal health care, better taking care of the planet better, a much more progressive stance on things, better, more, equal taxation for everybody. Right now our middle class is just getting taxed too much versus how much our upper class is getting taxed and those kind of things. So there's just a lot of progressive ideas that I want to make sure there's happening. I want to vote for. So that's one thing that's important to me within the kind of spectrum. And so this particular piece of artwork has to deal with that kind of concept. And thinking about, we're coming up on an election. 2024 will be an election for between probably Joe Biden and Donald Trump. And I'm dissatisfied with that selection. And so I made this AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, for MFP, which is motherfucking president. And I had this idea I wanted to run with, kind of playing on this idea of the cult of personality with our politicians. I actually believe that in the messaging of AOC and what she stands for. And I would love to see her run for president someday. I put underneath of it, I put 20XX, because I've done in the past, I had this t-shirt I made that said 2024, and I got a lot of pushback for that, for being like, A, she wouldn't run because Biden's running, but B, it's like people thought she was too young, but she wasn't, because she'll be the right age when the actual, election happens and all those kind of things. So I just put XX, so it could live on at any time, this year or next year, I should say, or 2028, or whenever it might happen. I would love to see her on the ticket as the kind of Democratic nomination, because she's a progressive, the kind of person I believe where we need our country to go is in a more progressive direction. So yeah. So break it down. The art of it all is, so it's her portrait, large on it, done in ink. I did some red on the outside around her head in acrylic, mixed with a little ink as well, black ink. And then on the surface, I did some writing. So I wrote with white ink, and then also with vinyl cuts. So I would use my Cricut Maker, and I cut some vinyl lettering for it and some lettering on the bottom. Some of the things it says. Across the top, it says "Speak truth to power." Across her eyes, it says "Vote." Down in the corner, it says AOC for MFP. And then along the bottom, it says "Vote progressive." And when you can't, vote blue. And then if you don't stand for the oppressed, you stand for nothing, is something else I wrote on there. So and then other writings I have on it, kind of more in the background. The things I want to point out the most is the evolution of getting to this piece of artwork, because I'm actually really excited how it turned out, and I'm excited to see where it takes me, because one of the things I say about my artwork, my process as an artist, is each piece is kind of a sketch for the next one in a lot of ways. I don't do a lot of just ideating, I guess you could say, or trying to make one piece perfect by doing a bunch of variations of it and then I just do something and go oh, did that work or not? And then take what worked and move it to the next one, or take what didn't work and change it and move it to the next one. But, the idea of something not working too is very weird for me, because I don't nothing never doesn't work. If it doesn't work, I just change it in the path of doing it and then make it work. So everything ends up working eventually in my pieces, unless I really mess up somehow. But so far that really hasn't happened for me. I don't know what would need to happen, because I have this saying, this idea, it's embrace the mistake. So it's just I just, think about it. I do ideate. I mean, the truth though is I do ideate, because I do a lot more ideation in my head. And this is my thing with art. It's I might have said this before to you, but I've said it at times where I equate myself to that idea of how Mozart could write a symphony in his head. And I know I'm not Mozart, and I'm probably not the same level of artist that he is as a musician, and a composer, but that's the way it works for me. It's I think I have a very clear vision in I work out what it looks like in my head, and then I can just do it. So it's not I'm not ideating. I'm ideating I just don't do it physically. I don't make versions of it. I do all the version making in my head. So that's part of my process. But the things that I'm really excited about is I started this idea. I needed this text on the cover on it that I wanted to be a monotype. The idea of it being every letter taking up the same amount of space, so that it could form this grid for AOC, because the letters were 3 by 3, so a 6 block square, I guess you could say. AOC for FOR MFP. So it was just like that, and I wanted it just to be this kind of even kind of thing, and I couldn't find a font face that worked for my idea. So what I ended up doing was I remembered in some previous work that I'd been working on, I made about a year ago almost now, I made a new kind of logo for myself, which I'm going to be redoing and using this font face. Every year I want to do a new basically like logo for myself. And last year I did the Swiss Modern kind of logo that inspired me to kind of think about a like font face for another like t-shirt I made that was woke AF, and I just made them all just even monotype like that, but they were very angled, like very square, sharp edges. And then but I remembered that and I go like, well, let me develop that and see if I can use it for this. So I did that, and then I ended up developing it into the entire alphabet. So I have the entire alphabet in this format right now, which I hope to figure out how to put on like Google Fonts or something like that, so it's actually out there. And I think it'll be I'm really excited about the idea of talking about this, sharing this evolution of this piece and where it came from, because the pieces I did before are a clear evolution to this, like the Fonnie Willis and Jack Smith pieces, and then even the pieces I did before that where I was doing the trans rights or human rights, the Jinx and Lo-Fi Girl portraits, if you're familiar with those ones. But those ones I just used this idea of typography, but I gridded it and just drew the text. But I've been moving into a place where the text becomes cleaner and sharper and more of a design thing. So it started with doing like I did the vote along her eyes are masked out and sprayed, so that spray paint that creates this kind of like loose opacity kind of idea on it. But then the texts that are below, when I did it on the Fonnie Willis, and this is where the evolution comes in, on the Fonnie Willis and Jack Smith ones, the intention was just to make it solid white, and it didn't quite come out like that. I'm not disappointed with how it came out, because I really like how those ones came out. But the idea, and I was like, well, if I'm just going to be spraying this much and creating this much fumes in my studio and doing all that kind of stuff, it's like, why not just make it out of vinyl instead if I'm trying to just make it solid? So that's what I did. I just cut these out of vinyl and stuck them on. So like the AOC for MFP is vinyl, the Vote Progressive when you can't vote blue is vinyl, and that triangle shape or rectangle shape is also vinyl. And then, like I already described, the Vote and Speak Truth to Power is a mask. It's still cut with my vinyl machine, my vinyl maker, but it's the negative of it in a sense. And then I just use the outline to spray, because there's special kind of material you can use to spray. So what I'd like to do is take a nice photograph of this and make it into like artist prints, do like a limited edition, and see if there's potential interest in that idea. I really like how it turned out. Like visually, it really works for me. Messaging wise, I love it, but I don't think there's a big audience for the message. But just for the visual part, I think it looks really cool. So if there's somebody out there that wants my work, and this would be one way they can acquire it, is if they purchase a print. But the things I got to figure out is I got to figure out how to take a good photo, because my limitation right now is I need more lighting, because I only have 2 lights, and I've taken photos of this size work before, and you can see it's darker where the lights aren't. So, but sometimes I just deal with it because it's what I have. And for like Instagram and stuff like that, it doesn't matter too much. But for an actual print, I want it to be more evenly lit. And so I need to come up with money to do that, buy some lighting or something like that. I don't know. We'll figure it out. And then the other thing is figuring out how much it costs to make like 100 prints of decent quality. Like, I don't have the money to do that. So we'll see. I have to do some research there. So, yeah. Anyways, that's kind of the story, the behind the scenes of this piece of artwork. Really, really excited about it. I'm looking forward to figuring out how else can I do this idea. I want to do a whole series with this vote idea. I don't know what personalities I should keep pulling from, because there's very specific kind of personalities I would want to represent this idea. So anyways, that's what that is. So that's kind of the update on that. So I don't know, check it out if you haven't. If you're listening to this on an audio only format, you can go to my Instagram or my TikTok account linked in the description, and you'll see them. Just scroll down the account and you'll see different, pictures of it and stuff. And or just go back over to YouTube and make sure you're subscribed there and do it there. So okay, next up, the next thing I wanted to talk about was this idea of grading But I'll mention first because I mentioned it earlier. So I did get the feedback from my students, but I haven't looked at it yet because I haven't been wanting to. I know there's going to be a few of them that are like, Zim sucks. So, and I'm sure there's going to be a bunch of them that are like, Zim's cool. I kind of want to wait till the end. Like, I don't want to look at them until next year, not till I'm done completely, and look at them all next. I'm assuming I'm going to have access to them, but I don't know. I don't really want to look at them until next I'm done with this environment and I'm moving on to my next, like give myself the summer to look at them. So just because I don't know, I'm just not in a good enough space right now to see negative comments about this kind of idea, because I'm working really hard to do the best I can. And I know it would help me, reflect on it, but honestly, I just not in a space. My head space is not strong enough right now to want to deal with that thought process, especially as I'm preparing for next semester, which I'm going to talk about more in a minute. So I don't know, maybe I'll change my mind and look at them sooner than that, but I kind of want to just wait to look at them till next. Hopefully I can have access to. I don't know how it works. And I don't want to ask. I don't want to be like, so how long do I have access to these? Maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll just ask that arbitrarily. I'll be like, how long do I have access to my feedback? I mean, because I could just download. I don't know. Maybe I can log into it and sort of download it without actually looking at it. That's what I might try to do. I might try to take like screenshots. That's what I'll do. But anyways, I did have one student email me after they got their grades, and they noticed the difference between what it said on Canvas and what I gave them, because I gave them a letter grade lower than what was on Canvas. And it was a situation of, because I don't like to grade people that it messes up their idea of what they're planning to do. Like if you fail a student, they have to retake it, or they can't, they need a certain amount of a prerequisite for another class. And the information I got from the student was they'll have to change their class because the C grade, they'll have to change what they're planning to do. And I did, and I'm bummed about it, but it's honestly what they deserve. They don't deserve anything more than that, because they weren't showing up to class enough. They weren't putting enough effort into it. They tried to, which I allow my students to submit work late. That's totally fine. But they submitted a bunch of work within like the last week of school. And it was like, you had lots of time to do this. You clearly weren't putting in the effort. You weren't showing up to class. So it's like, a C was almost generous in a lot of ways. And I'm still learning how to grade myself so that it's more obvious for the student. I mean, it should have been obvious, because I told them at the beginning of the year that, I told my students at the beginning of the year that if they don't show up, their grade's going to go down. And, I have a whole attendance policy about it as well. So just that alone was enough. But and typically what I've noticed, if they're not showing up, the work suffers as well. And this was this across the board was a very typical, I guess you could say, example of exactly that. It's like they're not showing up and their work wasn't that good, period. It's like, so how, yeah, you expect a better grade than what you got. I mean, they should know that they were they were lucky to get the grade that they got even. And so I don't know, but it did make me feel, I'm like, damn it. I'm not trying to like hold students back, but I also want, I want to grade them honestly, but I don't know. It's interesting because also what I felt at the end of the semester was this kind of like, who cares? It's like, we're all here at the end of this, anyway, they all made it. It's like, what's the benefit of holding them back in a way? Because it's like art, it's like, I don't know. It's an interest, like where there are other fields of study where it's like, you really have to know this idea before you can move on. But with art, you can keep learning. You're always learning. It's sort of different. I just feel it's sort of different, but maybe you could disagree with me. And maybe that's the point. It's like, if you're going to be in this institution and you're going to be an artist, you really need to know like these ideas really solidly before you move on. But I don't know. You've heard me talk before about my theories, my thoughts about foundation type of practice anyway. Like the foundations are, design principles and those things, and how much do you actually need them? Because there's so much of art is about concepts versus, if you get too caught up in the, can't think of the right word. What are the three, I can't even remember my breakdowns of like the theorist types, the people that do more of the, technical part of it, the actual being able to express, line and chiaroscuro or whatever, all that kind of stuff, perfectly proportion and all that. I'll have to go back and listen to my own podcast. Look, I think it's in one of the titles, but the three different places of like emphasis that certain, and I'm an expressionist, a theorist, the expressionist, and I can't think of that third one. But anyways, so that's the story there. Just kind of, I was like, gosh, it's interesting experience of grading. Grading is the most, I don't know if difficult's the right word, but it's just the most confusing of this whole, I find it hard sometimes I just want them to be, participating. As long as they're like trying, that's good enough for me. If they're not trying, then yeah. But if they're not like virtuistic, but they're trying, that's all we need. Because especially with art, it's like, you don't need to, I don't know, it's just art. It's about like, how does it make you feel, Anyways, last but not least, or two more things, I guess. I have the recommendation letter and then my planning, what I'm planning to do over the next couple weeks here. So recommendation letter. So I got my first opportunity to write one of my former students a recommendation letter, which was cool. I'm thankful for the experience. The one piece that was difficult for me that I did not like about it was the portal that you submit this information to. So there was about 10 schools I had to submit my letter to. And for like 3 of them, all they required was an upload of the letter, and that's it. Here's the letter, read it, great. And that was fine. Like, I like that. The ones where I didn't like, and for a lot of reasons, but the ones that were difficult for me was there are certain schools that had a bunch of like, multiple choice questions about the student that just were really sort of difficult for me to get through because I hate doing those kind of things. I just hate them with a passion. I do not like filling out forms. It's like one of my least favorite things, because I have this weird feeling like, am I doing it right kind of idea? And it's like, I get kind of like frustrated about it. I'm like, I don't know what's going on. And plus, this particular situation is like, I know the student as a person pretty well. I'm not the best, but the way that language was, they want to see them in a really academic setting in a lot of ways is what they're really asking about. And I'm like, well, I had them in one of my classes, but it was when I was a graduate student, and I was, and it was a couple of years ago now. And so I didn't feel as confident about answering those questions about the student. And so I did the best I could. And it's just kind of I don't know, I didn't like the situation. So the point of me telling you is, if you're ever in this situation, now you know what to expect. There's going to be some that just want the letter, and there's going to be some that want you to rate the student on scales and maybe even fill in some others like text boxes about information about the student. So just, you're best off trying to make sure that you're doing this for a student that you really know well. But if you like, I did it for a combination of reasons, because I wanted to support the student. I wanted to get the experience myself. And in hindsight, I might have been like, I do want the best for you, but I know we only had one class together, and I'm not sure I'm going to be the best to give you the, what you need out of it. But too late now. We did it. And it's there and it's submitted, and I'm hoping that they are able to get into one of the schools they want to get into. And now I have that experience. Last thing to talk about is my plans for this break. I don't think I mentioned it last week, but basically what I need to do, it's Saturday the 16th right now. We have a little more than a week till Christmas. Next week, I'm kind of trying to make my get ready for next semester week. So starting like tomorrow, I'll just chill and watch football. Starting Monday, and it's going to be hard because I'm not super motivated to do it, but it's sit down and just kind of go through everything I need to do to get prepped for my next semester. Like what I do is I like lay out my calendar. I like print out a calendar. I look at all the dates. I kind of align everything, figure out what's going on. Luckily, 2 of the classes I have that I'm teaching, I've already taught. So that'll be a little bit easier. I'll just adjust based on what I learned last semester and adjust it for this semester, and kind of make some adjustments there. And then one class is brand new, or 2 classes are brand new, but one class is brand new and that I'll be teaching called advertising design, which I'm excited about because it goes back into like the work that I'm doing. What I'm trying to do with that class, it's under the design program, and I'm going to make it more of a let's combine your art practice with design. What I've noticed about a lot of the students at this school is they've kind of put this kind of divide between art and design where it's like we don't want that. We want your design to be an artistic expression of yourself and do it to the degree and quality that you can do in your art practice, and it's not there. A lot of it's because they can't use the programs well enough. They're not versed, they're not fluent in the programs well enough to be able to take an idea, translate it to a digital space, and make something out of it. So hopefully we can start bridging that gap even more. But the pieces, like I think the work that I'm doing right now is a really great example of what I'm hoping that they'll do, is like find a hybrid, find a way to combine your kind of fine art practice with your design practice and make it interesting and awesome and kick some butt with it. So hopefully, and I'm going to use advertising design as an opportunity to do that. So that's the new class. So I have to figure out, I have my first kind of half of the semester, I think, figured out. But then the second half, I was thinking of having him do, like the first half, I wanted him to do like, I'm going to have them take some kind of pre-existing event in a way. It could be a movie, it could be a concert, or it could even be something they make up. It could be something that already exists and reimagine it in a different design style and a different era, and really do research based on the design styles and the era they're looking at, and then put out this work and do multiple like posters of it, and I'm gonna hold them to a really high standard of like, I'm gonna find professional quality ideas of what I'm looking for, and if it doesn't match that, they're not getting A's out of the class. It's like the work has to match the expectation of just really good work, of really good design, really good work. I'm not even gonna say design or anything. And so I'm going to push them a little bit harder next semester than I have so far. And I'm starting to come to terms. I think I mentioned this last week. I'm starting to allow myself that I am the professor and you did not make good enough work yet. Even though you were here working, even though you followed all the rules, you're not making professional quality work. You need to keep trying, go back, keep doing it, keep experimenting, keep making. And it's just a matter of figuring out how to speak that, because that's the hardest part, is going like, okay, it's clearly not to the level, but now I have to defend it as a professor. I have to go like, this is why it's not to the level, and this is why you got the grade you did. So that's what's going on. So the second half of that class, I haven't quite figured out. I'm thinking about trying to do a group project where they're kind of bringing in I want them to do this real world. I want them to take design outside of the computer and like create like an environment of design, like whatever that might look like a model, or like like some kind of staging of something or some kind of wall. Like, yeah, I think, yeah, that's kind of what I'm going to do. Some kind of physical manifestation of design as a group. And it's like, how do you then, how is this then, sort of, I don't even care if it's advertising. I just want them to be like, come up with creative ways to create design outside of the computer, basically. That's the plan. That is the plan. All right. And then the fourth class is it's called an active, and it's this class that's a cross-discipline class that there's these 3 teams of students that are all creating a product for a real world company. And at the end of the class, one of the teams kind of wins, and that company will use their product. And I think this company needs them to create just basically a social media campaign to try to like an awareness campaign for what they do. So I think that's the main thing. All right. I think that, and then, so now planning for the break. So like doing that next week is that. And then, I don't have really any plans for Christmas or anything, or New Year's or anything like that. I'm not traveling. I can't afford to travel. Don't make enough money off of this job to do anything like that. So we're just waiting. I've applied to a couple grants. I just got one of the grants was just me. The other one needed letters of recommendation from people I know. And so both those letters have been sent in. So fingers crossed. That one's like $7,500 or something like that. So I don't see why I shouldn't be able to win that one, but I don't know. It just depends on how my work looks. This is my kind of thought. It's kind of the same issue I had with my music. I feel like my music, when I was performing, I never got a recorded representation of my music that represented me the way that I know I'm capable of. And I'm feeling it's not as bad with art, but there's that element. It's like, if you see the pictures of my work, it doesn't make sense unless you're hearing me if you're not got that artist talk with it, like hearing me talk about it and hearing me, interact with it. It's like, that's the art. And like, it's not just the picture. And I'm worried that just the pictures won't represent the art as good as it could be if you saw it in person, obviously, and then you heard me talk about it and you heard me interact with it. And that's kind of what I fear about that whole idea. All right, we made it pretty good podcast. Thanks a lot for listening, and we'll catch up with you again. I don't know, whenever. Maybe I'll get a guest on here. This may be my last one for until next semester, but we'll see, because I didn't expect to do this one. So we'll see what just might come up over the next couple of weeks. You never know. Something amazing might happen, and I want to share it with you. So we'll catch up with you soon. And as always, be loving, kind, and patient. Peace, my friends. Bye.